Camille, we need your room. The words came sharp and casual, slicing through the quiet of our Napa Valley estate. My stepmother, Cheryl, stood at the doorway, her tone light, like she was asking for a favor, not evicting me from the only room that still felt like mine. "Excuse me?" I asked, setting down my coffee beside the biometric sensor I'd been fine-tuning since dawn. "Julian's moving back in," she said breezily. "He just got accepted into Wharton's MBA program. He needs real space for his prep work. And your room gets the best morning light." She glanced around at the shelves of diagnostic chips, my clean-lined workstation, and the annotated schematics covering the walls, as if it were clutter, not a prototype for an early-stage Alzheimer's detection device. "You'll be fine in the guest house. We started clearing it out this morning." I was 29, still living on the edge of the vineyard my grandfather left me in his will, a fact conveniently ignored by Cheryl and my father, who now treated the land like a family prize to be managed. "I work from here," I said, careful not to raise my voice, "every day, from 5 a.m. "It's not a real job," she snapped. "Julian's on a track. He's going places. You're just fiddling. After 5 years developing a system that could detect neurocognitive decline with 92% accuracy, before the first symptoms surfaced. "Fine," I said, slowly closing my laptop. "I'll leave." Not because I was defeated, but because my vision had already outgrown that house. For years, I'd been the overlooked one, the quiet child, the one who skipped parties to finish algorithms. They toasted to Julian's internships and golf tournaments while dismissing my venture as a phase. "You've got until noon," Cheryl said. "His equipment arrives tomorrow." Noon. How poetic. Because at exactly 12:00 p.m. the next day, Hawthorne Neurotech, my company, would go live. A rollout years in the making. That night, as I packed my gear into the back of my matte black SUV, my phone pinged. Encrypted message from Damien, my CTO. "Survives online. Press deck distributed. Launch confirmed for noon." I smiled. By tomorrow the neuroscience world would know my name. And my family? They'd realize they'd just kicked the founder and sole majority owner of Hawthorne Neurotech into her own guest house. On her own land. Let the golden child have the sunlight. I control the power grid. What they called tinkering was, in truth, the quiet birth of a revolution in neurodiagnostics. That research associate title on my resume? Just camouflage. Hawthorne Neurotech had been operating quietly through a holding firm in San Jose, fully incorporated, cap table clean, IP protected, and Series A investor ready. While they praised Julian's networking brunches and Wharton prep classes, I forged NDAs with hospitals across 3 states. I built a predictive model for cognitive decline that was already being reviewed by a regulatory board in Switzerland. My phone buzzed again. "Damien. Phase 1 complete. We now hold controlling interest in Metasphere West." Metasphere, the diagnostics firm that handled my family's entire health insurance network, the one underwriting Julian's study abroad plan and covering Cheryl's boutique hormone therapy sessions. They had no idea that over the last 6 months, I'd quietly accumulated voting shares through intermediaries, each perfectly legal. By morning, the very system that ignored me would report to me. I taped the final box just as Julian's voice floated in from the hallway upstairs. "Mom, should we do the walls in pale sage or graphite blue for Camille's old room? Let them redecorate, let them measure curtains and order monogrammed sheets." They thought they were winning, but they didn't know the game had already ended. That room? That temporary space they let me use? The one they insisted would eventually serve someone with real potential? I remembered my Stanford commencement, the one they skipped to attend Julian's awards banquet. I remembered pouring every bonus check into my device prototype while they gushed about Julian's vision for sustainable fintech. "Camille," Cheryl called sharply, "don't forget to leave your key. You're not coming back." I placed it gently on the marble console table. Not a word. She was right. Like I wasn't coming back. As I carried the last box to my car, I heard laughter echoing from the kitchen. "Definitely graphite blue," Julian said. "And custom shelves," Cheryl added. "This room should belong to someone building something that matters." I opened the door of my unassuming gray hybrid, slid inside, and pulled up my laptop. One line of code. Initiate Beatrice, Proton. Authentication pinged. Hawthorne Neurotech Core Access, authorized. Protocol Phoenix active. Launch sequence in T-8 hours. I closed the laptop, turned the ignition, and pulled away from the house. They wouldn't just see success. They'd feel its shadow tower over everything they thought they controlled. I drove the winding roads out of Napa just as the sky shifted to lavender. Hills dotted with dormant vines gave way to sharp turns and open valleys. The final stretch led me to downtown San Jose. Quiet, sleek, humming with innovation, and at its heart, my real home. The top-floor penthouse of the ArcLight Residences, overlooking the glint of the Guadalupe River. The valet smiled and opened my door. "Welcome back, Dr. Hawthorne." The concierge nodded as I passed. The elevator rose without pause, straight to the 32nd floor. Up here, I wasn't just Camille. I was Dr. Camille Hawthorne, founder and CEO of Hawthorne Neurotech. My name was whispered in venture circles and biotech panels alike. My living room opened into a glass-walled office, where screens glowed with neural activity maps and real-time analytics. In the center, a large display pulsed gently. Metasphere West Systems integrity 93.8%. Sync in progress. We were close, not just to launching our cognitive diagnostic protocol, but to something bigger. The Clairvoyant system, my flagship platform, could detect neurodegenerative patterns with uncanny precision, but it also tracked anomalies in medical billing, research funding, and clinical trial data. What began as a breakthrough in healthcare would also become a quiet wrecking ball for the corrupt networks clinging to legacy influence, including the Archer Medical Group, my family's crown jewel. Very clinic network my stepmother used to funnel grants into Julian's vanity projects. The one my father used to pad board resumes and hobnob with hospital executives, all while dismissing my work as a techie's hobby. A ping broke my focus. Family group chat. Dinner tomorrow at Altura Grill to celebrate Julian's acceptance. Camille, you're welcome to join. If you're free, dress nice. Altura Grill, their favorite country club. Same place they toasted Julian's Wharton acceptance while I stood in valet shadows, counting tips to buy RAM for my prototype server. Funny, because tomorrow night, those very corporate cards they'd used to toast him, I would decline. Silently, irrevocably. I replied, "I'll be there." Then I opened the encrypted file. Project Daedalus, Reclamation. Inside, a full audit trail. Misappropriated grant funds. Ghost billing. Inflated trial metrics. Cross-referenced against Hawthorne Neurotech's final acquisition documents for the Archer Medical Group in every affiliated clinic. "Dr. Hawthorne?" My assistant Clara's voice came over the intercom, calm and clipped. "The executive board is assembled." "Thank you. I'm on my way." I paused by the mirror in the hallway. The woman staring back at me didn't shrink anymore. She didn't ask for space at the table. Tomorrow, she owned the table. At Altura, they'd toast Julian. They'd think they still ran the legacy. And I'd sit quietly across from them, knowing the legacy had just changed hands. My phone buzzed again. Secure message from Damien, subject line, all nodes green. If you felt that shift in power, just wait until dinner is served. Subscribe now, and don't miss what happens when Camille finally takes her seat at the table. Phoenix Protocol, fully deployed. All systems green, Metasphere acquisition, finalized, ownership, confirmed. I slipped my phone into a matte leather clutch and stepped through the black glass entryway of Altura Grill, the country club my family treated like hallowed ground. Soft jazz played from overhead, and polished walnut walls framed curated artwork meant to impress people with last names on donor plaques. Behind the host's stand stood Marcus, the maitre d'. He looked up immediately, not at the Camille they used to wave past, but at Dr. Hawthorne, the majority stakeholder of the very real estate beneath their champagne flutes. "Your usual table, Dr. Hawthorne?" he asked, with a knowing smile. "Not tonight," I said, eyes shifting toward the large booth in the back where my family sat. I'm with them. At the table, Julian was mid-sentence, gesturing with practiced charm. The new units on the 18th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, dedicated admin staff, the whole 9 yards. My stepmother Cheryl laughed lightly, her hand resting on Julian's wrist. My father, glass in hand, nodded along, pleased. They didn't notice me until I pulled out the edge chair. Camille? Cheryl blinked. Oh, you came. We already ordered, she added, as if that mattered. I had a few things to wrap up, I said, folding my napkin slowly. Just business. Julian raised a brow. Still calling it that? Dad finally looked up, calculating. Watching the market, always. I hope you're not freeloading, Camille. That name still holds weight. I smiled, sipping once before replying. Speaking of weight, did you hear about the leadership change at Metasphere West? Dad froze, barely perceptible. The waiter arrived with a tray of champagne. To Julian, Cheryl said brightly, this one's on me. She handed over her platinum card. I leaned back, calm. The waiter returned, voice tight. I'm sorry, ma'am, it's been declined. Cheryl flushed. That's absurd. Run it again. We've tried 3 times, ma'am. Do you have another? My father slid his card across the table without a word. Same result. Decline. Julian sighed and handed over his Modesma West corporate card. Fine. I'll handle it. The waiter hesitated. I'm afraid that account is currently restricted. 3 sets of eyes turned to me. I set my glass down. That won't work either, I said softly, because I had locked it. Every corporate card tied to Metasphere's internal billing network was under my control now. The same control they told me I'd never earn. Their silence was electric. What do you mean? My father asked slowly, his voice no longer dismissive, just tight, suspicious. He'd sensed the shift. I met his gaze without blinking. About Metasphere West. There's been a change in leadership. Cheryl's face paled. Camille, what are you talking about? I leaned back, folding my hands in my lap. Phoenix Protocol, I said calmly. Across the table, my father stiffened. His world was built on backdoor deals and hush-hush mergers. He knew that phrase. He'd read the white papers. He'd overheard the whispers. An AI-driven oversight framework disrupting diagnostic networks, triggering fraud audits, halting bad actors with surgical precision. That's not possible, he muttered, shaking his head. Hawthorne Neurotech, I confirmed softly. The firm that finalized acquisition of Metasphere West at midnight. Julian blinked. What does that have to do with our cards? System protocol, I said. Flagged for irregular billing, ghost grants, and unregistered compensation structures. Specifically linked to family-owned clinics, so all associated accounts have been frozen, pending investigation. His jaw clenched. How do you know this? My father asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I gave him a smile that held years of swallowed slights. Because I built the system, I said evenly. Because I am Hawthorne Neurotech. The table fell utterly silent. Even Julian's usual stream of accomplishments, his assistant, his 18th floor view, his strategic vision, vanished mid-thought. That's insane, he scoffed after a beat. You work for some research group, right? In what? San Jose? Agree with me. A convenient cover, I replied. Hawthorne Neurotech is structured across 6 shell entities, 3 holding companies and 2 foundations. That lab is just one access point. I set my champagne down gently. We now employ over 3,200 staff in 14 countries. We control the back end for your medical insurance, Julian, your hospital's HR and grant systems, even your clinical research funding. Cheryl's hands tightened around her linen napkin. But you're just what? I cut in, voice cool but sharp. Just the daughter you told to move out? The one whose Stanford graduation you skipped? The one who didn't look like success? I reached into my clutch and slid a matte black card across the table. The Hawthorne Neurotech core emblem shimmered in the candlelight. The champagne's on me, I said. Actually, Every meal you've had at Altura Grill for the past 4 years? Also on me. I looked up at the waiter. My company acquired this property in 2021. He nodded deeply. Of course, Dr. Hawthorne. My father blinked. Hawthorne. You're that Camille Hawthorne? I gave a single nod. The same Camille Hawthorne whose IP filing you tried to intercept through Metasphere West's legal department last March. His mouth opened, but no sound came. You probably didn't notice, I added, too busy rehearsing Julian's award speech to read your own board memos. Julian's face drained of color. Cheryl finally stopped pretending to smile. And I? I lifted my glass. They were just beginning to understand. Oh, and Julian, I added, turning slightly, that AI diagnostics upgrade your hospital's been bragging about, powered by Hawthorne Neurotech, so unless compliance freezes your funding first, you'll still be using my tech. I paused, letting the silence do the work. If you've been watching this unfold, you've only seen the beginning of their unraveling. Subscribe now, because next, they'll learn what it means when the girl they ignored becomes the architect of their reckoning. I turned to Cheryl, voice cool but level. Protocol Phoenix also flagged inconsistencies in your trial reporting, Julian. If I were you, I'd reconsider that director promotion, fast. Cheryl's hands were trembling, napkin twisted between her fingers. Camille, she said softly, almost a whisper. Sweetheart, can we talk about this? We're still family. Bam. I rose slowly, deliberate. My eyes met each of theirs. My father, face flushed with fury. Cheryl, pale and shaken. Julian, motionless, hollow-eyed. Family? I echoed. Family doesn't banish you to the guest house because you don't fit their picture-perfect storyline. Family doesn't miss your commencement speech to celebrate someone's third-round internship interview. And family, I added, voice sharpening, doesn't call your career a phase while they fund a house of lies. I picked up my handbag. Deep forest green, crocodile leather, minimalist, refined. It costs more than the Audi my father used to flaunt at holiday parties. Your accounts will remain frozen until our internal audit concludes, I said, tone flat. Based on what Protocol Phoenix has already flagged, you can expect a call from the Office of Inspector General before Friday. You can't do this, my father growled. I met his gaze, unwavering. I already did. Then I turned slightly, eyes landing on Julian. And Julian, I tilted my head. If you're looking for a quieter space to revise your resume, I hear the guest house gets excellent sunlight this time of year. I walked out, never looked back. Behind me, gasps. Shaken voices, a legacy cracking. In my hand, a buzz from Damien. Protocol Phoenix, historic traction. Hawthorne Neurotech stock up 320% since market open. A smile touched my lips. That guest house they exiled me to, it's where I wrote the first lines of code for what would become Hawthorne Neurotech, where I envisioned a platform to challenge every gatekeeping system that ever called me less than. Over the next month, their empire collapsed. Investigators uncovered fraudulent stipends, double-billed diagnostics, and falsified research under Archer Medical Group. Julian's role was quietly eliminated during